Hello everybody, thank you so much for coming to our meeting. I have a couple of announcements before I introduce our speaker. First of all, if you're interested in SWAPA, the conference is going to be held April 3rd through the 5th, and your abstracts and registration are due on November 30th, so be working on those. T-shirt payments, we want them to be in by December 4th, so we've actually extended our sale. If you're interested in purchasing a t-shirt, please contact me. Just send me an email through MainSync. That's all the announcements we have for today. We have a very special speaker. Nick Patras is here with us. Did I say that right?
You did.
Good. He is actually in our, counseling doctoral program. He specializes in counseling and education supervision and marriage and family therapy. So we're excited to have him talk about coping with burnout, which we are all in need of assistance with this. So I'm going to turn it over to him.
Thank you very much, Lindsay. I have to say that when Lindsay first asked me if I would come and talk about this topic, I actually thought it was a candid camera moment because I was in the process of studying for doctoral comps. I was getting ready for a big project that I'm involved with on campus with the Ally program, and I literally thought, this is a setup. This can't be real, because I probably know about burnout because I'm living it and experiencing it. So I'm speaking from the heart with what I'm about to share with you. Also, I would rather this not be a monologue or a lecture, and I would rather it be sort of a discussion, if you all are okay with that. So I don't know how that will impact our technology, but if you have a thought, a question, a comment, even if you don't believe something that you hear, I'd like for us to kind of share that, because that's how I work better, if that's okay with you all. I thought this definition, okay, I'm looking on the wrong screen. Just by going to dictionary.com, the first definition of burnout is the first line there: a fire that is totally destructive of something. The second parts of that definition are really more in line with what we think of as far as students in grad programs. Fatigue, frustration, or apathy resulting from prolonged stress, overwork, and intense activity. It's kind of interesting that the whole notion of burnout is a 70s kind of concept that came out of UC Berkeley, and this Christina Maslach is the first one who kind of coined that term as it relates to sort of a psychological symptom of stress and sort of the ill effects of stress. This Dr. Jane Boast from UT Austin at the Counseling Center on campus came up with this definition, which is the idea: the intense routine of a working grad student can be sun-up to sundown affair, drowning out any hint of a personal life. Graduate school really is more of a lifestyle. Thoughts about that? I mean, that it is a lifestyle.
Yeah, I mean, I know from personal experience, to me, I have no personal life.
This is your life.
It's a work, it's a school, it's a everything all in one.
Any socialization probably is with people at the university or in the program. Any other thoughts? Those of you are at the other side, if you want to know who's speaking or some clarification, we'll try to make that connection. I'm probably going to drive this whole process crazy today. I'm not going to lecture though. Yeah, I think, George, what you're saying is what I personally have experienced, that once you start the program, and in particular, a lot of these stats are about people who are in grad school and who are working either part-time or full-time. Many of us work at the same institutions where we're in a program, and that's the whole notion. It becomes your whole way of being. I mean, it is your whole identity.
For me, it's like an immersement. It's like when I go to bed, I have to think about did I go through the day and not complete something that I needed to do? When I wake up, first thing on my mind is, what do I have to do? And it all is comprised of grad school stuff, whether it's, do I have to meet with my supervisees today? Do I have to have an assignment in? But it all is just an overwhelming feeling of being immersed in whatever has to do with grad school. And so like the slide says, it is your life, it becomes your life, it's a part of it.
Absolutely.
I wonder if it would be different, because I'm finding myself in a different position. And I went to grad school for the first time at a different institution, and that time when I got my master's felt very much like that. I was
All
immersed.
inclusive.
It was very close knit. We had the same people, so it was like that was my social life, like what you're talking about. But now, several years later, it's a little bit different. And I do work full time here on campus, but I still, and it's because I live an hour away. And so my life really kind of, once I leave the campus, I end here, and then my other life starts there. So it'd be interesting to know, maybe for people that are going through a second program or going to a different institution for their second program, would that be different?
How different
Would
is
that
the
be
experience?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be very interesting. The whole notion of, as I said, the business community caught on this whole notion of burnout it became a problem, and people started looking for solutions in the corporate world much quicker than it has happened in academia. In fact, it's sort of a rite of passage in some of the literature that I looked at, that this is just part of the process. I mean, some of our professors will joke with you about, oh, well, I went through it, so you got to go through it too. But there is I think, and I'm going to pose this to you all, and Lacey, please join us with a comment here as we talk about this. If the hierarchical nature of higher education, while the corporate world has become more horizontal, higher education is still very hierarchical. And as such, there's sort of, you start out as a grad student, you're working in many cases running experiments, working on papers with professors, in addition to your own classwork, and then in addition to having to work to sort of make all this happen. And it's just like, just do it. You'll get through it eventually, and it'll be okay, but just go through it. Where corporate America caught on, and there were work-life balance committees put in place to take care of people, and let's make sure you're not, burning out. Think of the corporate campuses like Google, YouTube, some of those places. I mean, it looks like a country club campus. So it's a very different experience. So, Lacey, any comments or thoughts about the whole hierarchical nature of higher ed?
I think what you're saying in terms of, the level at which we have to keep going, is very, very much indicative of higher education. I think we're seeing a lot more now in certain disciplines, but I've seen some burnout too in different occupations that aren't academia as well, though. So I think it kind of depends on the institution you're at. But I think right now, in terms of seeing burnout, it's probably because a lot of us are constantly going. It's the 60-plus hour weeks that I think a lot of people don't realize that academia entails.
Yeah, I think from those of us who are aspiring to be professors, you see someone teach 3 classes a semester and you think, wow, what a cushy job. They come in late in the afternoon, teach a class, go home. I want that life, and that's not at all what it's really like, correct?
That's correct. The work never ends.
Well said. So 7 signs of burnout. So take note and see if you have some of these. Sleeplessness, frequent illness, working hard, feeling drained without any signs of higher production, depression, forgetfulness, irritability, and exhaustion. You don't have to raise your hand if you have any of those. I will only speak from my story. I lose some of the most simple things that I usually put in the very same place every single day, and I still find myself losing them and spending 45 minutes looking for my cell phone before I can leave the house. And then that causes me to be behind, which causes a whole series of other things from happening. So the material really talks about there are two sort of sources of burnout, and the environment is one, and then the traits of a grad so I had to throw that in there. I'm not sure that the grad student traits as the other. So burnout is a phenomenon due to the learning conditions that demand excessively high levels of effort and do not provide supportive mechanisms that would facilitate effective coping. So the very nature of what we're doing does not lend itself well to using coping skills to sort of get through it. And that was from a study, actually an older study back in 1990, Newman and Rachel. We're going to talk more about those two things in a little bit. 43% of all graduate students surveyed, and this is a recent survey, indicated that their stress levels are more than they can handle. So almost close to 50% of grad students are saying their stress level is almost to the point where they can't deal with it. Majority of grad students struggle with emotional fatigue. Some are in danger of completely abandoning their calling or their reason that they came back to grad school. You know, there are a number of people floating around out there that are ABD, and you have to wonder, not only is it maybe just apprehension of a large writing project, but are those people suffering from burnout to the point that they simply cannot complete their dissertation? I mean, they have nothing left to offer.
Nick, I have a question for you, and maybe you're going to get to it. Are you going to be talking about some resources we have here for those students who are struggling emotionally with trying to get through and deal with all of the life stressors that they have?
I would not be doing my job as a counseling center employee if I didn't talk about those, right? Yes, I am.
Great. Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you. There is a wonderful resource that I found. It's called gradresources.org, and it's actually based in Plano, and it is a whole website with all sorts of wonderful ideas and articles specific to grad students and the whole grad school experience. But they're saying that the oppressive environment is really threefold. It's a lack of time, the financial pressure, many cases with mounting financial aid debt, in addition to if you are working full-time, that brings pressures unto itself. Many cases, many people cannot work full-time, so they're going in debt, living financially for home life, in addition to assuming more debt for school, and so that's a financial conundrum that just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And I don't agree with this one. This was on the research material, lack of faculty contact. I feel very fortunate at this school that we actually, at least I can speak from the counseling program, I have never not had access to faculty members. If anything, that's the beauty of it being a smaller university. I'm sure in some of the larger universities you may not have any access or very limited access other than in the classroom to your faculty. But I don't find that to be the case here.
I had a friend that was at TCU, and she had very little contact with her advisor for her dissertation, and it was very, very frustrating, and not knowing how to get to each stop along the way, and it was very much frustrating.
And the whole lack of time is what you said. You wake up thinking about how many projects, how many papers, how many experiments you're going to work on a particular day, and you go to bed thinking about what didn't I get done, how can I reshuffle these priorities to get it done tomorrow or the next day or by the deadline or slightly past the deadline in some cases for me.
Well, and for me, I mean, I don't know how many other people in this program or various programs have, families,
Yes.
full-time jobs,
Yes.
and then you still have school, and you still have to see clients, and you still have to, and in my case, teaching 2 classes, having 2 classes of my own, private practice, family, another 40-hour, a week job, meeting with supervisees. So it's a lot of stuff, but not enough time, and just juggling game or whatnot. So
Absolutely. Well, we're going to speak to you, Myron, specifically on this next one. The traits of grad students. Because I'm tired just listening about what you're doing. High expectations are almost an overachiever. If you aspire to go to a grad program and/or master's and/or a doctorate, you probably are an overachiever in the sense, and I mean that in a good way. You've decided this is what I want to do with my life. Perfectionism leads to exhaustion, though, because many of us suffer with, well, it can't be good, it has to be perfect. And that continuously is going to have a sort of a build-up effect to where, as the coursework continues to be demanding, there's no way we can be perfect without something having to give, and that is usually our health, our relationships, that sort of thing. We're driven by a dream to achieve our own ideals, but also an opportunity to influence others by being able to be in the classroom. I mean, you truly, as professors, I will forever remember many of the professors that I've had along the way because of how much influence they had in my life at a particular time around a particular subject matter, or just who they were as individuals. Another trait that grad students seem to have is there's no room for failure. Failure is not an option. Now, I don't mean failing a course, but not having the perfect paper, not having the professor point you out as the perfect example of a psychology grad student or a counseling grad student. Refusal, this is the big one, refusal to acknowledge the internal alarms that signal you need some help. We just completely ignore those, even though our body, those around us who care about us are telling us something's out of balance here. And the trait of a grad student is one that typically just avoids that or doesn't hear it. So I wanted to take off on, you might be a redneck if, so you might be a burned out grad student if you're noticing you have a substantial decrease of stamina, or an increased need for sleep, or the reverse of that, you can't sleep at all. You're dealing with insomnia. Weight loss or weight gain are fairly dramatic changes in your appetite compared to what you normally would experience. Accident proneness, increased susceptibility to illness, psychosomatic complaints. That could be headaches, migraines, ulcers, backaches. They specifically in the literature talk about one of the symptoms, a somatic symptom of sort of burnout is backaches, which I thought was very interesting. Substance abuse, both alcohol and other substances, and cardiopulmonary problems, blood pressure. Some of us have to deal with blood pressure problems, no names mentioned, but that can be exacerbated by burnout. And then the cognitive component of this is depression or mood changes, isolation, a lack of or desire to socialize, partner, family, or roommate conflicts, increases in those conflicts. Cynicism, rigidity or passivity, aggression, mental illness, self-esteem problems, despair, and meaninglessness. those are some pretty heavy-duty things.
We're a mess. I mean, really. I'm looking at this, and at one part of me is like, oh, I feel comforted that there's actually other people going through what I go through, and then I come back and I think, this is pretty bad.
Yeah.
And we don't take care of ourselves.
And I think we're in, you know, in an area of higher education where we are taking coursework and pursuing degrees to help others not experience these things, and yet it's sort of what we experience, or what we may be experiencing. Lacey, any of you all have any comments about the cognitive component?
We've been kind of talking over here amongst ourselves. We're like, yep, we see that one. So.
Lots of thumbs up, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking that most of this, most of the points that you gave were related to aging. I didn't know that was fatigue.
Okay, so I've got a question.
Yes.
I mean, I'm sure a lot of y'all might be able to help me with this one. I've got two backgrounds. I've taught math the last 2 years, and now that I'm teaching psych, I'm realizing that the psychology course itself is a little bit more demanding cognitively. So then, I mean, would you agree that certain fields and certain courses, teaching-wise, would put a student, a grad student specifically, kind of more at ease than teaching other ones that might require more higher level processing? Because I, again, from experience, freshmen in an intro to psych class don't really pose a lot of questions. But students in, you know, a sexual behavior class or one of the upper level courses would probably pose more higher level process thinking questions. So, I mean, does anybody have
I
any?
agree. I've taught intro with incoming freshmen, majority being like 18, and then I teach the experimental labs. And both have things that are good, but I will say, I think the difference comes with the amount of, we'll say, office time you're spending with the students, and then like more grading. Like the grading is so much harder in experimental, and then also the demands on the instructor to help them make sure they're doing every step of their project. I mean, it's so hard. I listening to this and thinking about it, I'm like, I don't know how I last semester I taught intro with 75, and then I had the labs for 305, and I'm thinking, how did I do that? But I made it. But yeah, I think that there's a big influence with respect to what you're teaching and what you're taking. I know my management classes they're tough. I thought this was gonna be easy. It's just like social research, and now I'm like, oh, it's really hard.
Because I see that as really twofold. It's the whole component of you as a student and all of the stressors and experiences that you're having, one of which happens to be prepping for various kinds of teaching. So you have your own internal experience of what you're going through with burnout, and then one of those things happens to be a major stressor of how you prep for a particular class. So it's kind of an internal thing of you as the student, and then the external thing of what you're expected to teach. That's just the way I experience that, the way you said that. So the results of all of this,
Like the coffee.
huh?
The coffee cup.
Yes, that's a self-portrait right there on the top. Yeah, the quality of work is affected. If you are in burnout zone, the quality of what you are able to produce as a student, if you're teaching classes, if you're working at the animal shelter taking care of animals, the quality of what you do is going to be impacted by your level of burnout. And it's the notion of you will make some short-term choices in burnout mode to just get it done versus doing really quality research, really top-notch performance. And so the burnout will take you away from maybe being the kind of scholar that you truly are and that you want to be and that you aspire to be, simply because you're kind of almost in survival mode at this point. Many people, we talked about this earlier, this is where they change their mind and decide, you know what, I don't need a doctorate. I'm perfectly happy with my master's. Or, you know what, I've got half of my master's done, but I just don't think I have it in me to finish this anymore. When I started my master's at St. Edward's in Austin, they had two of the advanced students in the program come and speak to us. And it was two ladies. One said that grad school had cost her her relationship with her boyfriend, and the young lady that was married said her marriage was in trouble because of grad school. That the demands and stressors had so put such a demand on those relationships. And so it really didn't strike me until I was preparing for this at how serious what they had said and what they had shared really was. At the time, I was ready to get it started, and it's like, okay, well, that was you, but now I really understand what that's all about. Interpersonal relationships are stunted. Academic goals outweigh relationships. Those driver, achiever people that go to grad school will, in many cases, pick their academic world over their personal world. Thoughts? Well, that's a hush fell over the room.
I'm just thinking, I used to be in contact with family a lot more before I started a PhD program. Like calling them, I'm talking like every other day. Now I'm lucky if I talk to them every 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Sometimes a month or so goes by and I don't even talk to my sister.
Something interesting that I noticed from my experience is I'm part of a long distance relationship right now, like long term relationship. Right. And honestly, it kind of was good that we're long distance because he's in law school and I'm doing going for my doctoral, and this way that chunk's kind of cut out for the most part, and I can focus on my work and he can focus on his work. So it's something I wasn't expecting. Like, it's still difficult, but there is an upside to it because this way I can focus on my work, and I think it would be hurt a lot more if we were in the same place.
And so, I mean, I'm hearing you say that it is advantageous that you're in a distance relationship for both of you right now, to the two programs that you're in.
Yep.
Yeah. Future career can be jeopardized because I think what one of these researchers said is, you think if I just get my doctorate and get that faculty position, life is going to be great. And what one of these researchers said is that many times it is 18 years from the time a person enters grad school until they achieve tenure. That's a lot of time. And from this research that I read, there's just as much burnout and stress-related burnout for faculty once they're working at a university as we may be experiencing as grad students. So while we're hoping for those goals, there's still the potential of a lot of burnout. So let's kind of talk about some solutions. Develop effective coping skills, and in particular sort of that sense of your inner person, of who you are, that's integrated and stable, yet dynamic and flexible. You remember some of the symptoms earlier were rigidity, inflexibility, and so this is talking about learning to sort of go with the flow within the confines of what you're trying to do academically, and recognizing weaknesses, utilizing your strengths, and employing some outside resources. I'm going to get into those a little bit more. And some tools that can be very helpful if utilized are peer interaction. I know I'm in a cohort with 7 other people, and I'm not sure that I would have stuck it out had it not been for the interaction that I have with my peers. I mean, when one of us is down, some of the others in the group are able to sort of pick you up and say, come on, we're not leaving anybody behind, we're going through this together. And so the value of that peer interaction is amazing. Family members, listening or playing to music, entertainment or media. Does anybody use TV to sort of zone out? That's your method of zoning out. I have no time to watch TV, but that was one of the things that was listed. Visiting places of renewal. So if if nature is something that's important to you, to be able to take 5 minutes, walk out of the office, walk out of the building where you work, and actually enjoy that place of renewal can definitely help with burnout. Sports. Some kind of specific ways to do this are start every day with a relaxation ritual. I'm going to put Shannon on the spot here now because Shannon is a yoga goddess.
Oh wow!
You're a yoga goddess, right?
Yes. No.
But I think that's getting massages, so having regular body work, yoga, those are kinds of things that can sort of keep the stress levels at a tolerable level. Absolutely. Do you want to share thoughts, or I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I would love for you to share. I know that's your area.
Sure. So I wasn't expecting this. But yeah, so obviously any kind of athletic activity is good anyway. Those endorphins are always great. But in particular, yoga focuses a lot on not just poses and physical activity, but it also focuses on breathing, meditation, which can be combined with, spirituality or not. That's optional. But just breathing, just learning how to elongate the torso, open up the heart and the chest to allow those lungs to fully maximize, taking all the oxygen, oxygenate the body. That obviously does good things for the brain. It's recommended before testing or before, anything that you're concerned about, I guess. But then for relaxing also, last night there's an app actually, if you want to download it, it's great. It's called Yogic Breathing. And it has different options. So if you, for example, want to practice meditation, stress relief, anxiety, et cetera, it gives you different walkthroughs where you can just do audio or a video, and it shows you how to breathe, diagrams and everything on how to breathe if you don't already have that knowledge. So I don't know if that's what you're looking for.
Yes, absolutely.
And we have yoga at the rec, and then we also offer employee wellness yoga. Hopefully you're all getting those emails that I teach that also. And we're starting meditation classes tomorrow, every Thursday now.
Nice. Thank you. Here's an interesting tidbit from this survey taken off the Grad Resources site. All of those other things, family, peers, mentors, are all seen as being helpful to relieve burnout, either somewhat helpful or very helpful. Interestingly, on that same survey, it said professors at 43% were ranked in this survey, and counselors and drinking alcohol were 33% each. So counselors fall way down below on all these other things, which I thought was that was kind of interesting. So here, let's sort of get down to how do we practically deal with this. Within your control, because you do have a control whether you take 9 hours or 6 hours a semester. I've taken 9 hours most every semester that I've been in the doc program, and I started working full-time 6 months after I was admitted in the program. Don't recommend doing that. But make conscious choices about not overloading yourself. Recognize your triggers. Eliminate people and activities that cause you to experience stress, which ultimately can lead to burnout. It is really hard to eliminate people from your lives. I mean, it is not easy, but sometimes we actually have to do that. understand the challenges of the work that you've undertaken, both your coursework and your life's work if you're working full-time or even part-time. Take care of your body. We've already talked about this. Shannon did the commercial for the rec center on campus. Massage, yoga, meditation, and sleep. Shannon, are they still offering sort of reduced price massages through rec?
We don't have massage therapy anymore.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Well, there are places here in town. There's one a lady in particular who offers a special rate for students, and it is, you know, I could not be where I am and continue to do what I'm doing if I didn't get that regular body work just to keep mind, soul, and body together. Sleep is an important part of this too. Stay on top of your workload. Now that sounds almost like an oxymoron, but there are two of us sitting in this room right now who struggle with this one. You know, you have a major project that's due. You have 8 weeks before it is due. Start it on week 1 rather than on week 7 is all I'm saying. Right, Myron? You do have that choice. You do have that control. Don't try to be perfect. I'm not going to ask anyone in the room if they struggle with perfection, but many of us, I think, do. Think of your mental energy as a limited resource. Dole it out. You choose who gets that mental energy. Crafting a meaningful life is kind of a nice way to sort of end my part of this. True success is more than passing qualifying exams, finishing your dissertation, publishing in top-flight journals, or getting tenure. Authentic happiness may include a range of passions rather than unbalanced obsession with work. Attention to personal and professional development. Intimate and mutually supportive relationships. Dedication to making scholarly and practical contributions to the world, and the quest for personal spirituality that includes compassion and curiosity. I love the curiosity piece of that. And then laughter and playfulness. Sometimes when we're suffering with burnout, we don't take the time to laugh. We don't find many things to laugh about in some cases because the stress level is so much. And so finding those times to be with people who you can laugh with, who you can joke with, can help to get the burnout under control. At the counseling center, you know, if someone has reached the point where the burnout is getting pretty critical, you know, we have 6 counselors who work in 6 different very individual, unique ways, but also we have biofeedback equipment that as a student is there for you to use. I mean, this is very expensive, well-proven technology that can teach you to lower your breathing rate and to calm your entire body down and soothe your nervous system. That's available to you as a student at no cost. You've paid for it already in your student fees, but I mean, it's there and available to you. We have a relaxation room with 2 massage chairs where you can come and actually take advantage of that and take a little, 5-minute, 10-minute break rather than continuing to work continuously until you're at the point of mental and emotional exhaustion. So at this point, I would like to just kind of open it up for questions, thoughts, as we sort of wrap it up.
One thing, oh, sorry,
Go for it.
please.
Okay. So, I mean, in my past, I've viewed burnout, exhaustion as kind of like the edge. Like, there is a line in essence because, I mean, you can only do so much. So, I mean, would it be possible to kind of push the edge and kind of make it extend further so that you're not necessarily burning out, but you're able to cope with more over time? Because I mean, the idea, that once you get into faculty, and whatnot, you're still dealing with this idea of burnout, but I would think that the workload would be different and more demanding. So I mean, over time, would that point of burnout not be growing and extending further and further away? So in essence, I mean, can you push that boundary?
So the true overachiever in you is what I'm hearing is I want to push that boundary out there a little further. I mean, I think you can. Do I think it's a good idea? Probably not. I mean, burnout is burnout. This is my take on it. It doesn't matter if you are brand new in your master's program and it's like, wow, I've been out of school for a while and I haven't taken grad classes, and these are a little more demanding than what I remember from undergraduate, and I still have family and I still have to work, and dealing with that level of stress that leads to burnout versus brand new faculty person, all kinds of committee work that you have to do as a part of departmental responsibilities, and teach 3 or 4 classes. That's a different kind of stress.
And publishing.
And publish. Oh yeah, by the way, and publish too. I would be hesitant to say it's a good thing to push it. Do I think people are going to push it and try? We're going to do what we have to do, but my take as a mental health professional is, why risk pushing yourself to the point where you have a meltdown? I mean, is it really worth having a physical or emotional meltdown?
I think as grad students, we kind of shift the criterion for what is burnout. Like, from when you talk about it, it's clear, we're like, oh yeah, that's burnout. But then I think, but at the same time, I'm doing all of those things and I'm thinking it's okay, but it's not all of them. But I mean, it took me getting a tumor to realize I needed to slow down. And I think as grad students, I don't know why we do it, but I can think of other students that have actually graduated and moved on, and they were just pushing. And it's almost like a culture. And like in our lab, we have a thing that says publish or perish. I mean, just pondering that statement, it doesn't seem conducive to a healthy environment to deal with these types of things. But I mean, I find that burnout kind of comes and goes. So sometimes I'm really burned out, but then something will happen and things will shift and I'll get through it. And the thing I have to do is just keep going forward. And that's all I can think about at this point. I know I've been burned out for probably like forever. So,
and I think, Lindsay, what you're saying is what some of the points that were made about, we can keep going. We can keep doing this. I mean, you will finally reach a point, I think, where the body will finally shut down. But illnesses are the body's warning signals that are going off, that many of us keep pushing past those signals until we literally have to go to the hospital because something is wrong. You had a tumor. We don't.
Something I found interesting about that, though, is most of the time you get the side effects, the problems, when life starts getting better. So over like the summer, if you're not taking courses when you're doing a lot during the semester, suddenly you're really sick in the summer and can't enjoy your time off. And so that
Good
makes
point.
it even worse.
One of the Shannon was mentioning some of the things that are available that don't cost anything. There's an app for your smartphone. It's called BioBelly, and you actually put it on your belly, and it will measure how deeply you're breathing, so that you can actually get a better, more relaxing series of breaths. And so it's called BioBelly, and it even tells you, unbuckle your pants, put your phone on your belly, low on your belly. And it's like, okay, but it's called BioBelly is all I'm saying. It's legitimate about teaching you how to breathe.
And it doesn't access anything on your
No,
phone?
it doesn't. It doesn't take pictures or anything like that. But there are lots of tools. UCLA Mindfulness Meditation is another free download, and it has a series of, I think there are 13 or 14, and they vary in length from 2 minutes to 4 minutes, to 9 minutes, to 13 minutes, to 18 minutes. And so you can literally, if you say, I have no time to take deep breaths and relax, you can go into the restroom, go into the stall, put your earbuds in your ears, and take a 3-minute break and do some deep breathing to relax and calm your body down.
That really is a good one.
So that's all I have.
Any more questions?
Oh,
Lacey?
Go ahead. I was going to ask about the imposter syndrome with being linked to burnout, with this idea of constantly pushing yourself, trying to, strive to really accomplish a lot of things. Do you have any thoughts on that in terms of grad students experiencing what we commonly refer to as imposter syndrome?
I've not heard of that terminology, but it's fascinating.
Yeah. It was kind of like this feeling that someone's going to call you out as an imposter, that, hey, you're not really grad school material, and that you're just kind of there. And so basically you'd be called out as an imposter. It's something that we've referred to mostly with whenever I was in grad school, that a lot of people feel that way, but it's not until you actually start talking to your cohort and actually acknowledging that you realize a lot of your peers feel that way too. But you just keep, I'm thinking you just keep pushing yourself because you're like, okay, I've got to, live up to this expectation.
That is fascinating, and it seems to be right on. I mean, as far as tapping into that feedback is crazy. It's affecting my burnout. It's raising my stress level. No, I think of so we get into grad school. We are trying to do well. We're suddenly competing with our peers in a sense, even though they're supportive, they're there for us. And it could easily tap into that self-esteem issues of, oh, well, I'm not good enough. I can't succeed at this. I'm not going to be able to make it through this program. And then that only adds to the level of stress and burnout. Anybody else have any thoughts about that before they turn the microphone back on over there?
It's kind of funny because it's almost like, so even our group, PCGSA, the whole reason we formed was to help us, really. We needed a support group to help us succeed in our programs. But I'm thinking about it, and I find myself falling into that trap where when you start either experiencing burnout personally, or you see somebody else kind of taking care of themselves and doing less of, let's say, the hardcore publication and in the lab all the time, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. and just crazy overextending themselves. When you start seeing people back off from that, I start to think, oh, they're not taking it as seriously, and that's stupid. And I personally, sorry y'all, but sometimes I have that thought. But I think it has to do with just graduate student culture. It's kind of backwards.
Well, it taps into that. You've got to do those things to be considered performing at the level of a grad student. And so when you see someone actually shift priorities and say, no, I'm actually going to take care of my health as well as do these things, that is going against the culture in some instances.
And sometimes you're losing authorship on stuff. I know when I got sick, I had to be bumped down on a bunch of projects, and that was really hard for my pride. Not being first author or second author, and getting bumped to last. And I still struggle with that, but yeah, I mean, there's good things and there's bad things, but I've got a lot to work on, I know that.
I think it's really important for you to know yourself and know who you are and maybe what your values are. And if what's most important to you is, achieving those things, that's fine, but make sure that you don't have like 10 different things that's on your that's most important list.
Right.
And, you know, like for me personally, we're about to have some changes in my office. I'm gonna lose some people. And so I'm thinking about how many classes am I really gonna be able to take. And I'm kind of thankful that I'm thinking about that, because it would be really easy for me to go, I'm gonna keep on going, you know, because I've got a time to get this done. And so I think you have to really know your values and know how much you can really handle.
And that ties into that thinking of your mental energy as a precious resource, and you getting to decide how to dole that out, rather than just sort of, I don't want to use the word mindlessly, but just sort of, I'll do whatever. You really need to be the one making those decisions about how you expend that, because it is a precious resource.
I think that's what's so foreign, at least with my experiences. I've had different advisors along the way, but I mean, there's some positions that you get in where you don't have that flexibility. If they have expectations for you, you do it, or you're out. And then sometimes it's not like that, but I think that's what's hard, is knowing that that's my mental energy and I need to be the one in control.
Absolutely. Any other thoughts? Questions? Concerns? We can do this, right? We can survive. Everyone can do this.
You should guide us in a breathing exercise.
We should do bio belly together. I only have one phone though, I'm sorry. Now you all can never use this, will you?
Well, thank you very much for
Thank you all.
coming and sharing with us.
Good luck.